Unsolicited advice.
What you whispering for? Yo, what's unsolicited advice? Take it or leave it. You ever been in a relationship or, dating somebody, or maybe you're just married and you've always had this friend that was of opposite sex, whether it was, whether as a man you have a female friend or as a female you have a male friend. And instead of it, y'all being, best friends like y'all been for years, it starts getting complicated. It just gets complicated on so many different levels. You constantly telling folks, oh, they just my friend, but everybody just sees y'all's connection. Y'all just have a strong connection, and some people think y'all have sexual tension, but in your mind, it's like, no, we've been best friends, since grade school. We're just friends. They, good people. That's somebody I can count on. I trust them. But outside people don't see it that way. So of course, today we're going to talk about, if they're just a friend, or if it's more to it, or if you're just being paranoid or jealous or insecure, or you don't feel like you measure up. You feel like you don't have the same chemistry as they do. So there are some pros to having friendships with the opposite sex. So, one of the main things is perspective. Having friends of the opposite sex, it offers insight into how, like, the opposite sex may think, or feel about certain situations. It can help you, like, for me, it helped me better understand romantic relationships and how it impacts the social dynamic of it. Like, I would watch women, I'd ask women stuff just to get their opinion on things so I can have a better understanding on things that maybe I didn't catch or I didn't see or I didn't understand. And a lot of times it's very insightful. Sometimes it can be one-sided because, women love to champion and protect each other. It's kind of weird, but, they love to throw that out there. So sometimes it may not always be truthful, but it's very insightful. Another thing that's a pro of having a friendship with the opposite sex is the emotional balance of it all. They provide a different kind of emotional support than, me, like, for instance, me hanging out with a guy and trying to get some type of emotional support. Probably not gonna happen. He probably gonna look at me and say, nigga, stop acting like a bitch. You'll be all right. Like Cameron said in Paid in Full, niggas die every day, B. You'll be all right. It's kind of like that with guys. Our way of being there is being there for each other, is joking around. Giving each other a hard time. That's our emotional balance. But women can challenge your assumptions and broaden your emotional intelligence because they're going to make you see things from a way different perspective that may make you say, oh, that was, that's a better way of looking at it. And it helps a lot, especially if you have a female friend that's being honest and genuine with you. Trust me, it helps a lot. I love it personally. I think it's great. The third thing, and it just depends on if you're doing it the way you're supposed to, is it creates healthy boundaries. It teaches you how to have healthy boundaries. If you're a guy, it teaches you how to have healthy boundaries with females, to not treat every one of them like you're supposed to date them, or you're supposed to have sex with them, or you're supposed to flirt with them, So, it teaches you how to maintain, like, platonic, friendships and respect. That's the main thing, is respect. It teaches you how to have respect for other females, and it teaches you how to have respect for males. That's the main thing. I think that's the biggest thing. It teaches you, for guys, it teaches you not to be a horn dog for every female that you see. And then with women, it teaches you to have a better respect for, being around men and knowing the difference between respecting yourself as a woman and leaving yourself open to every man. Let's see. Another thing I say is it helps you with social growth. So it helps you expand your social circle where you can not just have just a bunch of guys in your circle. You'll have females as well. And we're not just talking about, females in the sense of your family members. We're talking about people you work with or people you grew up with, things like that. It's, it reduces stereotypes, things like that with each gender. There's a lot of stereotypes with that, as far as why you got that girl? Why is she the only girl in your little friend group? She must be having sex with all y'all. Like, that's, come on now, come on. Even with guys, if a guy is the only guy in his female group because the females trust him to respect them as females, other dudes gonna look at that and say, "Is that nigga gay? You mean you around all those females and you ain't try to fuck? No. Oh, nigga, you gay." That's just the, social stereotypes that we have. But we have to make that stuff more comfortable, because usually, like I said, if you see a dude around a bunch of females, you're going to think that that's their gay best friend. Or if you see a female around a bunch of dudes, you're going to assume that she's a slut and she's having sex with all of them. She's probably just the homegirl. She probably grew up around these dudes since she was a kid, and they're very protective of her. But a lot of times society doesn't see it that way. They just see it as something ain't right. Why can't you just be friends with your own gender? And then also there's less competition. So often, less rivalry and less, and less comparison, with the same sex. You don't want to compare things. You don't want to turn everything into a competition with the same sex. And when you have somebody of the opposite sex, there's none of that involved. Like if I'm hanging around with the guys, it's going to get competitive, whether we're, watching a game and betting on a game or talking shit, or if we're playing video games, or if we went go, play a game of basketball on the court, it's competitive. We're going to compare, even if we out and about. It's going to turn into a rivalry. Even if we're going to go flirt with girls, everything turns competitive. But when you're with the opposite sex, and y'all are friends, it's more relaxed, more compliments. We understand each other's personal dynamic. So, I wanted to get the positive stuff out of the way because there's a lot of negative stuff that comes with this, but I try to give y'all the positive first because I don't want to always just harp on why everything's so bad, because that's not fun and it's not healthy. So the bad side of this, having friends of the opposite sex, is the number one thing is just misunderstood intentions. Others are gonna, other people, you're gonna hear that a lot. Other people assume romantic interest or attraction to that person, even if none of it exists. Even if you don't look at them that way and you don't have any interest in them, they're gonna say, "Well, no, there's no way." And then, of course, once that happens, people start gossiping, and then it becomes tension in your social circle. It becomes uneasy. Now you can't, you really can't even be friends anymore in a way. It has to be, everything has to be chaperoned so it doesn't look bad. Y'all used to hang out without anybody being around, everything was fine. But now you got to make sure that you're with your significant others, or it has to be some type of way so it doesn't look bad, or it doesn't look off-putting. Then there's jealousy, in relationships. So if you have a partner, they're going to feel threatened or insecure about the friendship, because the one thing that your partner is going to notice is how dynamic y'all's chemistry is. Y'all have known each other for years. So, if I'm a guy and I have a female friend and my girlfriend meets this girl, she's going to be like, "This girl knows everything about you. She knows things about you that I don't know." And every time she comes around, you light up and you're smiling and y'all are laughing and having a great time. Y'all's chemistry is just off the charts. I don't like this shit. And vice versa. Men get jealous too. They're going to be like, "Nah, who is this dude? you know, and why does he feel comfortable running up and hugging you, and you know, and you know, why are you looking at, why is he always smiling at you? You know, guys get jealous too, so that can cause friction, you know. And now, you know, even though you communicated the boundaries now have been re-communicated, you know, with your partner. They reset the boundaries that you've already set with that friendship. They're like, yeah, you might have boundaries, but these are the new boundaries, meaning they need to get on. You know, they don't want them around like that. They don't understand why you keep bringing them around. Then there's emotional confusion. So one person may develop romantic feelings, you know, complicating y'all's friendship. And this is natural. You got to understand, to meet somebody of the opposite sex and y'all just click and y'all know each other and y'all have great chemistry and y'all communicate. Those are things that you look for in a relationship. So eventually, after a while, you start just having feelings. It just happens because it's human nature. A man is supposed to love a woman and a woman is supposed to love a man. We're supposed to be attracted to each other. Now, I know there's other things that make you attracted to the same sex, but if you're looking at just the, you know, the natural, normal stuff that go on between man and woman, those are things that will creep in. You know, this person is perfect, you know, or even your friends in your circle will be like, I don't know why y'all not together. You know, y'all are perfect for each other. You know, people will start saying things, and then you have no choice but to start looking at it like, are we? You know, we've been friends forever, but are we? I never thought about it like that because you never look at them like that. So, you know, it complicates things, and then there's, you know, that unspoken attraction. You know, it could lead to awkwardness. You know, and then somebody's feelings are going to get hurt because you're trying your best to keep it friendly. You know, and it's not fun anymore. You know, it used to be fun. You know, what Music Soul Child say? Nothing's the same, now things are strange, and really I just want my friend back. So, you know, it's kind of like that. Everything just get, you know, nothing's the same, things are strange, you know. So, all this boils down to like social pressure. Social pressure is usually what ruins good friendships, especially of the opposite sex, because there's cultural and family expectations will discourage you. You know, especially with opposite sex friendships. That's the first thing they'll say. That's not, you know, that's not good. You can't find your wife. You can't find your husband doing that. You're going to have to get them out of the way. They're going to be jealous. They're going to, you know, people around you are going to tell you it's not good. So, you know, this person you've been knowing since like in kindergarten or whatever, y'all just known each other for years. It's never been no ill will, no reasons to want to be with each other. You're just friends, and, you know, everybody's telling you can't do it anymore. So it's like, it's a tough road. You know, it's a tough thing. You know, you face judgment, scrutiny, you know, depending on your environment. But this all boils down to boundaries. And boundaries are a challenge because in reality, we hate, as human beings, we hate everybody telling us what to do. We only allow certain minuscule percentage of people to tell us what to do. And it's usually whoever's in charge of you at your job, and, you know, your spouse or your significant other. And, you know, and even that gets a little murky if you're constantly being told what to do. So now people are telling you who should be your friends. You don't want to hear that shit. I mean, let's just be real. You know, who wants to hear that shit? I don't want to hear it. You know, but I totally get why. You know, some people are looking out for your best interests, and then other people some people don't want to share you. You know, it's like I said, some people are possessive, some people are jealous, some people feel intimidated. You know, so physical closeness or emotional intimacy can blur the lines. So, you know, you just don't want to do those things, you know. And it's nothing but an ongoing effort to maintain clarity and respect. And that gets exhausting. But I say all that to say this. You should definitely have a friend of the opposite sex. You need that balance in your life, because if you're only listening to people of the same sex, you're only going to have one type of mindset. And that's not good. You need to hear it from both sides so you have the best clarity and the best understanding in your life. You're supposed to live life to understand, not to only judge things from one side. It's not good. But yes, you should. I personally think you should definitely have friends of the opposite sex, as long as you maintain that balance and you maintain those boundaries, and y'all both under. Because if y'all are real friends, that's something that don't even need to be spoken about. You'd never do that, because y'all are friends. So it's just a level of respect there. But I just wanted to drop that on y'all because I see a lot of that lately, and it used to be a time when I grew up, it was a time where you see it all the time. People were just friends with each other, but nowadays, no. Hell no. You can't do it, but, that's just my unsolicited advice. Take it or leave it.